Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Greta Zaro. I'm the organizing director with World Beyond War, and I'll be assisting with today's webinar. Just a few tech logistics before we get started. You can use the chat box today if you'd like to put any questions or comments for our presenters. You can find the chat box usually at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We also have closed captioning enabled today. If you would like to view the captions, you can click on the CC button at the bottom of your Zoom screen to enable the captions. You can also click on that button if you want to disable the captions. The captions are done by robots, so please excuse any errors with the transcription. And we are also recording today's webinar, so if you can't join us or if you'd love to share this with a friend, we will send out the recording afterwards and we'll post it on our YouTube channel so you can share it widely. And with that, I will pass it over to Larry to welcome us and do the introductions.
Hello, my name is Larry Gilbert, and I'm a member of World Beyond War and Veterans for Peace. And I've heard about the USS Liberty from a number of people. And so then I became inquisitive and went and found out about it. And I have come upon a couple of gentlemen who were sailors on that ship on that fateful day on June 8, 1967. This is the 55th anniversary. And we have two presenters today who were sailors on that ship and will tell their story. And then there'll be a slide presentation of some photos of the ship after it was attacked. And so the first speaker that I will introduce is Ernest A. Gallo. Ernie is a USS Liberty survivor and a graduate of the Philadelphia Wireless Technical Institute with undergraduate studies at the University of Maryland. While serving in the Navy Reserve, he left active duty as a second-class petty officer, communications technician, maintenance branch CTM-2. He completed a 28-year career with the Central Intelligence Agency and received the CIA Civilian Intelligence Award, the CIA Commendation Medal. Following the CIA, he worked for GTE, General Dynamics Quality Services Incorporated, Tricor, Marconi International, and BAE, taking him into retirement. Ernie is a member of Veterans for Foreign Wars, Naval Cryptologic, Veterans Association, the USS Liberty, Veterans Association, and the American Cold War Veterans. He serves on the board of directors for American Cold War Veterans. He is the former president and vice president of the USS Liberty Veterans Association and founder of the Liberty Foundation. He authored the book, Liberty Injustices, a survivor's account of American bigotry. The book is available at Amazon.com, and it may be in the chat. So I would refer you to that to obtain the book. The next gentleman is Mickey LeMay, as we know him. He was in charge of the electrical department on the ship. He wrote, "We supplied and maintained the electrical equipment aboard the ship. When the first plane attacked, he was hit with shrapnel and seriously injured. He ran down the ladder and into the superstructure for safety. As they were taking him to sickbay, a rocket came through the overhead and got him again. When he got back to the States, he was 100% disabled for 5 years. When he was physically able, he went on to repairing Singer sewing machines. It was good therapy for him, for his right hand that he had lost use of. He then went to trade school for TV repair and then to a partnership in a TV repair shop. He then, in 1979, he moved on to an electron microscope service. An electron microscope is capable of producing photographs of samples in excess of 50,000 times. He retired from electron microscopy after 24 years to Florida, where he lives now. After he retired, the VA moved his disability from 80% to 100% because of his PTSD. He still has 52 pieces of shrapnel in him. Fortunately, they have not caused him any problems in 55 years. So at this point, I'll turn it over to whichever of you two gentlemen wishes to go first.
Nikki, would you like to? Nikki, go ahead.
Okay. You told pretty much about my story. After I don't know how many people saw the unmarked planes from Israel, but I was one of the people that did. As I was approaching the 04 level, which is on the outside of the ship, as I got to the 04 level itself, to my right was a jet fighter. And he was flying along the same direction we were. And he was quite low. I mean, as a matter of fact, I could have waved to him and he could have waved back to me. That's how close he was to the ship at that time. And the plane was totally black with no markings on it at all. And that's when I got hit. Was I turned to the lieutenant up there who was identifying any planes that flew over. And I did say to him, did you see that fighter, sir? And he goes, no, where? And as I turned to point to the fighter that I saw, another one came and strafed the ship from starboard bow to port bow, port starboard, stern. Sorry about that. And that's when I got my first hit of shrapnel. We were standing probably 3 feet from one another, and I looked at him and he had as many holes in him as I did. And like I said in my thing there, I got the F out of there and went down the ladder and into the ship to the 03 level. And there the glass was all over the place. And at that point, my body realized that my left leg had been shattered. So I fell to the deck and crawled through a door, down another ladder, through a hatch into the officers' country. And as I came around the corner, one of my shipmates saw me crawling on the deck and he says, hey, you okay? And honestly, I looked up at him and I said to him, no, I like crawling on the deck. And we both laughed. I can't believe it, but we did laugh, both of us. It was just amazing. And he threw a tourniquet on my left leg, which was bleeding quite badly. And he says, I can't carry you down by myself. I'm going to go get help. So he left for a while. While he was gone, we had a couple more strafings in that, but I blacked out a couple of times, I believe. And when he got back, they threw me on the stretcher and they started carrying me back down to sick bay. And as we got to the corner on the 03 level, the corpsman came by and said, loosen that tourniquet on his leg. We don't want him to lose it. So they put me on the deck. And as he was untying my leg, the tourniquet on my leg, a rocket came through the overhead. So now I'm 2 decks inside the ship and I can see blue sky. At that point was probably the first time I really thought we were all going to die. And I ended up blacking out again. And when I woke up, I was in sick bay. And laying on one of the tables with a mattress they had put on under me. And I'd wake up, blackout, wake up, blackout, blackout. Now, I know I woke up one time and it did say prepare for a torpedo attack. I don't remember the torpedo hitting. I do remember hearing prepare to abandon ship. I remember I blacked out again, and I do remember I woke up again and they said cancel the abandoned ship order. And then through the night I would wake up and certain things, and I just can't believe some of the things that happened. One of them was I woke up and I honestly said to myself, what would John Wayne do? And he would go to his duty station. So I got up and fell on the deck because I couldn't walk or do anything. But I did do it, and because John Wayne would go to his duty station, that's where I belonged. And the generator, it was an important part of the ship. I mean, if we lost electricity, we lose everything. The ship goes dead in the water, and then we'd all be dead too. So that had something to do with me getting to my duty station too. And another time I woke up during the night and the guy came over and gave me a cigarette. And I honestly thought, let's see, in the Western movies, when you're in pain, you bite the bullet. I chewed the heck out of that cigarette. And then again, blacked out all the rest of the night. And when I woke up, they were taking me up to the main deck where they were going to evacuate me into a helicopter and bring me to the America. And as they were pulling me into the helicopter, I remember the guy saying, we will take one more after this one. And I didn't wake up fully for 7 days when I was on the America. A couple of times on the America, I woke up and I saw them doing certain things to me, but nobody knew I woke up. It was just, maybe a couple of seconds I would see something and then I'd black out again. The most interesting part of this whole thing is the America and the Saratoga, which were aircraft carriers, sent planes to our aid 2 times. Now, we don't know who's attacking us because the planes are unmarked. And we heard from Ernie's commander in his division. He spoke to the admiral a couple of days after the attack that sent the planes to our aid. And the admiral told him that he had sent the planes to our aid, called Washington, and McNamara told him to get the planes back on the deck. He didn't have the authority to send planes to our aid. So he called them back, both the Saratoga and the America planes. And then he had mentioned that, he says, oh, it might be because some of the planes that he sent to our aid had nuclear armament on them. So he took off the nuclear armament and put conventional armament on and sent them out again. And with that, he called Washington, and McNamara said, I told you to get the planes back on the deck. And the admiral challenged him. Now, again, remember, we don't know who's attacking us. I'm thinking it's Egypt. No way in the world would I ever think it'd be Israel. And with that, President Johnson took the plane. He says, you'll get the planes back on the deck. We will not embarrass our allies. So if that's a true statement that Johnson said, he wanted 294 Americans dead. So we don't embarrass Israel that are killing Americans at that point. And then the worst part too is we never saw anything from the United States till the next morning when Ernie and them saw the ships come over the horizon. Again, I only know that from my shipmates telling me that. I think that's all I have to say, Ernie.
Ernie, was the American flag flying on the ship?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, one got shot down, much larger flag was hoisted. You bet. And I'd like to, go into that a bit.
Go ahead.
First of all, we started our cruise in early, I should say, very early May, and we were in Abidjan when we got word, and this is early May, to beat feet and sail to Rota, Spain, to pick up provisions and additional manpower before we went in, we'd go into the Mediterranean. But we weren't told what it was all about. It was just get to Rota, Spain as quickly as possible. Early May. The point is that our government knew that there was going to be a 6-day war, or a war. It was coming. It was planned. So we went to Rota, Spain. We picked up three NSA civilians. They're all linguists, and 3 Marines were all linguists, Russian and those languages besides Arab, because our mission was going to be to discover if the Egyptians or Syria had Russians helping them out, that never happened. But nevertheless, we had the linguists on board. And the USS Liberty reason for life was intercept. We did the National Security Agency's responsibilities of intercept in those days. We didn't have the satellites we do today. So on the morning of June 8th, we finally arrived off the coast of the Sinai. And we were met early in the morning by Israeli reconnaissance aircraft. From early in the morning till about noon, we logged 12 overflights of Israeli aircraft, marked, very well marked, friendly. As a matter of fact, the atmosphere that morning was, hey, our ally knows we're here and they're keeping an eye on us. And when the guys were not on duty, one of the things they used to like to do was sunbathe. So the Israeli pilots, what they saw was something out of McHale's Navy. Sailors all over the ship on beach chairs and towels, sunning themselves. The point is, we did not look aggressive or threatening whatsoever. Besides which, the ship itself was a non-combatant. We had 450 caliber machine guns for repel boarders. That's it. We could not defend ourselves against jets or motor torpedo boats or anything else. My point is, if the Israelis wanted to have us do anything, all they had to do was tell us. If they wanted to show military might, that it would get our attention. So about 2 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, we went to general quarters. The alarm went off and we were under attack.
Ernie, was 1 o'clock we went on to GQ. The attack started at 2, correct?
I'm sorry. Yes, he's right. We had a general quarters drill. At 2 o'clock, the real thing happened. And my general quarters assignment was in a room below deck, well below decks. So I missed the strafing and the chaos that was happening topside. We could hear it. It sounded blood curdling, and it was just like there was nothing like we've ever either felt or heard before. The air attack, I think, lasted for about 20 minutes or so. During that time, our radioman did try to raise the Sixth Fleet, and we were having very much difficulties because our frequencies are being jammed by the Israelis. That is a fact of life. the 6 frequencies that we use to communicate with the 6th Fleet were being jammed. They would, our guys, our radioman discovered that when the jets were actually in the attack phase, the jamming stopped, and that's when they could tell the 6th Fleet we were under attack, and they finally got the message. And as Mickey indicated, the Saratoga passed the word to the America, and the planes never came. But the point I'm trying to make is that the critical frequencies that international law says, they're not supposed to jam, they were jammed. Okay. Following the attack occurred in 3 phases. The first phase was air attack, and included in that air attack were 2 fighter bombers that dropped napalm canisters, port and starboard. So the vision of the ship, you can imagine, the top side of the ship was in flames. And through the grace of God, we were able to fight the fires and keep it external. And we did take some casualties at that point. And one of the other things that happened that the Israelis did was to shoot at our stretcher bearers. That's against international law. They broke international law by shooting at our stretcher bearers. They broke international law by attacking our ship because we were non-combatant. We were in international waters, and we were not a threat. And I'll save the third one for last. So I was very fortunate, like I said, because I was well below decks. And the next thing that happened was the motor torpedo boat showed up. And they continued to strafe the ship with 40mm cannon, 20mm cannon, and 50 caliber armor piercing. We recorded, or we have measured, or we have viewed over 300 large bulkhead penetrations and over 3,000 small penetrations. So we were very safe target practice for that day, for them. Okay. The motor torpedo boats dropped 5 torpedoes in the water. These were dumb torpedoes. You simply line the motor torpedo bow up with your target, drop the torpedo in the water, and hopefully it goes straight and true, and you hit your target. Well, our captain managed to dodge 4 of the 5, and either that or there were 4 shots. But the 5th one did hit the starboard side. And that torpedo hit the ship in the only place it could possibly hit where the water was self-contained. That area was the area in which my group operated in. The reason for that was we were denied area to the rest of the ship. We were the spooks on board, and for security reasons, there were no doors except for one, and there was an escape hatch. And if the torpedo had hit 2 foot forward, 2 foot aft, the ship would have broken apart and gone down. So if you can imagine how we felt, the hand of God reaching out to keep that ship afloat. And some of us feel that there's a reason for it. that he wants us to tell this story for more reasons than not. So now that there's 34 killed in action, 25 were killed when the torpedo hit. We listed 9 degrees, and our engineering officer, who was of the World War II vintage, he started to flood the ship to make sure that the ship did not tip over. So he knew what was coming, and when the captain gave the order to prepare for a torpedo attack, starboard side, and did what he had to do to equalize the pressure or water, the weight of the water. He was successful because we finally just stabilized at 9 degrees. But 25 of the 34 were killed in those spaces where the torpedo exploded. We have sailors that were in that room where the torpedo exploded, and they saw the torpedo before it exploded. And there were friends of theirs on either side of them that did not live, and they did. If you can, so the fact that of all those folks that were there, and there was over 50, that how they survived, it's only, I mean, the Lord was with them. Anyway, we got those, all the fellows that could possibly swim out came out of that area, as well as the wounded. And we got word to evacuate the spaces we were in, and we went above the waterline for preparation to abandon ship. So we were in a passageway on the port side, and for some reason, the motor torpedo boats strafed the ship on the other side. Once again, no explanation of why that happened. We could have been taking more casualties on the side we were on, but it didn't happen. And the next phase of the attack were helicopters, 2 helicopters filled with armed troops. So we got a message, we were told, prepared to repel boarders. And we couldn't believe it, could not believe, after all we've been through, now we're going to repel boarders. So, and let me back up a moment about what I said. We prepared to abandon ship. When our engineers walk on water, as far as I'm concerned, when they realized that the ship was not taking on additional water, the word was passed back to our captain, and they got our boilers up and running again, so we had propulsion. So the captain rescinded his order to abandon ship, but before that, we dropped our whatever we had 3 inflatable life rafts left. That was the only thing available. And so they went over the side. And the Israelis immediately machine gunned those life rafts. These wonderful allies of ours, with our flag flying, and by that time, they would have to be really stupid not to realize it was an American ship, machine gun those life rafts. That's the third offense, third rule that they broke, international law. Anyway, if there's any hope for our wounded now, that abandoning ship would not be possible. They would never survive. So the only thing we had left was our May West's, our inflatable jackets that we had on. Wounded all over the place. Most of them are concentrated in our mess decks, which was converted into a triage, and that's where Mickey was taken. And as I said, these two helicopters showed up. I was beside myself at that point, and I guess I wanted to get at him and do something. I didn't know what. So I broke out of the passageway I was in and ran over to the helicopters, and they were just getting ready to leave. But I saw the armed troops, and one of the individuals was sitting on the side of the door with his weapon across his jacket, and I mean they were ready to come off the helicopters and do us all in. Thank God there was no place for a helicopter to land on the Liberty. It was an old World War II cargo ship converted into an intelligence ship. There was no heliport or anything like that. It would have been very, very dangerous for them to try and put anyone on board the Liberty. They would have to rappel long rope in order to come on to the ship. And I think that was part of the concern, that they finally decided enough is enough. And by that time, maybe they felt that the 6th Fleet planes were going to be arriving soon, and decided to call it off. And we did not see any American help through the night. We were still, of course, we were still very much in danger of sinking. We rendezvoused the next morning with 2 destroyers from the 6th Fleet at 5:30 in the morning. For me, they were looking for any able-bodied person to do duties to keep the ship going. So I went up to our flying bridge and told them, I took the lookout because we didn't have any radar. So I became the starboard lookout through the night and told them I didn't want to be relieved. And the most beautiful sight I saw the next morning was the USS America coming out of the horizon at about 10:30 in the morning. And by that time, the helicopters started to fly out from the America and started picking up our wounded. It was that day was a great Navy day as far as showing the flag and supporting us. But I said when we rendezvoused with the destroyers, they sent additional help, medical help, and damage controlmen to shore up the walls of the around where the torpedo had gone off. Keep in mind that the water is being held by very thin metal walls, and so with movement of water, the walls were actually moving in and out. So you can imagine that metal fatigue could finally weaken those walls. So the damage controlmen had to shore them up, and they had quite a job to do just that. Plus the fact that the powers to be versus instead of sending us to Crete, which was a stone throws away, or more importantly, for our allies, the Israelis, so concerned that they made a mistake and that they knew that there was wounded and death on board, all right, and that the ship was gravely wounded, to let us to take the ship to one of their ports, tie up to get medical help as soon as possible. No, that didn't happen. No, they never offered to have the ship go to Israel for us to be taken care of. That wasn't part of the plan, no. The powers to be decided we needed to go to Malta, which was a good 6-day sail. So therefore, the wounded were taken off, and we had a Navy tugboat behind us and a destroyer escort, because Russian destroyers were constantly looking to pick up anything that might come out of our side. And thank God, because we lost some dead bodies, some friends that came out of that torpedo hole, and they picked up intelligence, what do you call, classified material that was coming out of that hole. We went into dry dock at Malta, where all that water was let out, and you're going to see pictures of the torpedo hole, 40 foot by something like 24 foot, 3 decks. It encompassed 3 decks of carnage, and the worst part for me personally, since the spooks were the only ones that had the classified, or the clearances, we had to go back down into that area where the torpedo exploded to make sure all classified material was taken care of, disposed of. So we had to go into those spaces where the decks were filled with holes, wet, slippery, blackened, smelt like oil and dead bodies. And we had to retrieve those dead bodies and all the body parts that we could find in the debris. Keep in mind that these were friends that we worked and played with every day. And what can I tell you? It's something that I'll never forget. Anyway, I wanted, besides my book, okay, that tell my story, and more importantly, what's happened to the crew since then. Not all of it, but most. It's full of stories of American bigotry towards the crew of the USS Liberty. You might, why would people have you guys are combat veterans. Nobody should be thinking ill of you. I beg to differ with you. There is a group of Americans, do I dare say again, Americans that support Israel, that they will not accept any Israeli negativity. None. We got to be the bad guys. We got to be making up stuff. We got to have some alternative motive. So on and so forth. And I also want to bring your attention this DVD. there's 4 DVDs here. It's called Sacrificing Liberty. Okay, Sacrificing Liberty. Go to True News. It's a church group, True News, and they're the ones who put this together. It's excellent. You will not be sorry. You will discover how the powers to be brought us very close to World War III. World War III with the Russians. You got it. Yes, it did happen. And there are facts. They are hard and fast.
This might be a good part to show the slides of the photos, and perhaps you could describe them as you see them.
That's a picture of the starboard side. You can see the very top of the hole, the torpedo hole. Those sailors up way top near the smokestack, one of them is me.
I was standing on that top level you see way up there. I was an easy target.
That's the torpedo hole. As I said, it takes in 3 decks. Can you imagine the force of the explosion to bend metal that way? And yet there were people in that room that survived.
Those are people standing in there, by the way.
Yeah, that's inside the spaces that we had to go into and clean out all the debris. To the body bags, I believe that was on board the America. And that's not Mickey.
That's not me, no. I don't believe so. Although you knew what I looked like.
That was our mess decks, and as I said, it was turned into a triage. We had 174 wounded.
Well, thank you so much, Ernie and Mikey. That was so informative, and there are so many questions and comments and discussion going on in the chat. So with our last 15, 20 minutes or so, we'd love to open it up to the audience to ask some questions. We are a small group, so I would invite people to use your Zoom hand and raise your Zoom virtual hand, and then we can call on you. So you can click on the reactions button and then click raise hand, and we can call on you, and you can ask any questions for our presenters today. Eric, you should be able to unmute now.
Where did he go? Oh, there he is up top.
Hello, how are you? I want to ask a few questions. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, fabulous. The ship itself was supposed to be 100 nautical miles away from the Israeli and Egyptian coast, but the ship didn't get the orders because they were bungled in Washington, D.C. in getting the orders, and the orders weren't transmitted until after the ship was attacked. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. In fact, I looked at how that message was sent, as well as other people, and I know for a fact that the message was missent from the get-go. It left Washington and went the wrong way. It went to the Philippines versus the Atlantic. And even when it got to the Atlantic, one of the episodes of that message, the wound up in CIA communication channels, where that was rectified and sent to the Navy.
And before that, though the Israelis had given notice that anybody within 28 nautical miles was in a war zone. Is that true too?
I can't tell you whether that's true or not, but we were an ally. We were flying American flag. We were not a threat. As I said, we were under observation the entire morning. The Israeli military, we know we're supposed to have a lot of respect for their intelligence. But for me, I mean, for what would happen that day, they would either have to be very, very stupid or it was planned.
All right, well, let me ask a few questions, and I don't mean to dominate, but your colleague there, the Israelis within hours said it was a mistake, and the Israelis have paid reparations to those who were injured. Is that right?
No, not all of them, just certain groups.
Were you,
Just certain-
did you get reparations?
Yeah, I did, yes.
Okay, how much?
200,000,
$200,000?
yes.
Wow. I also, and I'll get out of this very quickly. It was a spy ship, correct?
It was an intelligence ship. Yeah, and that's what we did.
And that
We were
was
the top of
sending,
the spear. We were the
and
top
that
of the
was-
spear.
right, in not where you were supposed to be, sending signals that the Russians could have intercepted and passed along to the Egyptians. And then all that is true, right?
When you say we were not where we're supposed to be, I beg your pardon. We were given instructions on where they wanted us. Now,
They wanted
afterwards,
you
when they
100 miles
when
away.
it was realized
We didn't
that
know
we
that.
could, that we were not going to be able, that the Israelis had taken all the ground that they did, and the threat of Russians getting involved were not there. Then it was decided, yes, to move us back 100 miles. All right. So, but we didn't know that, and we were just doing our job, flying the American flag on an American ship with all the American markings that were under observations the entire morning, 12 overflights.
Okay, and
And also, Eric, also, by the way, this was a unique ship. There was only two ships in the world that looked like the Liberty and the Belmont.
And one of
No
them
other
was
ship looked
Egyptian.
like us.
One of them was Egyptian. I've seen the pictures.
It didn't
No,
look like us.
that's bullshit.
Hull was- No,
Okay,
it
let's
was-
just move on. But the other point I want to make, and I want you to respond to, is at this particular point in time, when the Liberty was attacked, nobody knew that Israel was going to attack Syria. Do you agree with that?
I have no idea.
Well, that's what the texts say, that the reason that for those people who argue it was deliberate was to make sure that the information that the ship was carrying didn't get to the Egyptians and the Syrians, so the Israelis could attack on the next day on the Golan Heights.
Wouldn't
And I
there be,
wonder-
wouldn't
Are
there be
you
a way
saying
of
that justified
communicating?
attacking our ship? Is that what
I
you're
am-
telling me?
I am asking you, under the laws of war, assuming that's true, the ship is not where it's supposed to be, and it is a risk to the Israeli forces. Does that justify attacking the ship?
Negative,
Why?
because it was an American ship. Simple as that. If we were an American ship on orders to be where we were.
No, you
That's-
weren't where you were. You were supposed to be 100 miles away.
No, we did not know that.
That's true, but you were supposed to be 100 miles away.
All right, let's move
Next-
on.
next
because,
person.
You're dominating the questions here and we
And
have
I'm
other
cutting
people.
out right now.
Mhm.
Muting.
Thank
Boom.
you, Eric. Thank you, everyone. Let's make time for others. So people can use the reactions button to raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. We also have a few questions that have been coming in the chat, so I'll read some of those. So one question was if you guys could speak more about the compensation and why some people received compensation, others didn't, and what the status of that is.
The only reason I got into it is somebody in my family read somewhere in a newspaper that some lawyers in Washington, D.C. were suing Israel. And that's how I got into it. That's the only reason I got into it. Somebody in the family saw it somewhere in a little article somewhere in the lower corner and said, Mickey, go check on it. And I did, and I went and did it, and I did get compensation.
And is there any effort for those who didn't get it to be able to get it?
No, I don't know. I'm not aware of any of that.
Okay. Another question was about like if all the shipmates were told to sort of keep your mouth shut, or like how did that process happen? Was it like pretty immediately after the incident, or like were you given orders to not talk about it? Could you speak to that?
Ernie?
Oh, yeah, I love this. Admiral Kidd, who is the officer in charge of the Navy Court of Inquiry, came out to the ship. I don't remember how he got there. I guess on a destroyer or whatever, but he arrived shortly, within days after the ship was attacked. And he had a unique method of making us feel calm and copacetic. He took his stars off and said, forget I'm an admiral. I want you to tell me what happened to you, and don't hold back. Tell me exactly what happened to you. This is on a one-to-one basis. And then when that was all over, he put his stars back on and said, now you're talking to an admiral, and you will treat me as such, and you will show me all the respect. And I'm going to tell you, you will not talk about this to anyone, including your family, or 10 years in prison, $10,000 fine, or worse, We do not want you to talk to anyone about this attack, even to your fellow sailors. And so it was laid down very, very loudly and clearly. Especially do not talk to any news media. When we arrived in Malta, that whole scenario was brought up again, that we were not to talk to anyone about the attack.
Myself, I was evacuated the next day, so I wasn't part of that. What happened to me is I went from the Liberty to the America, spent enough time there to get healthy enough to be shipped to Naples, Italy, and they put all the Liberty people on the top floor of the Naval Hospital where they could control people coming in and out. And so nothing happened to me then, but eventually I was shipped over to Germany to the Army Hospital. And when I got there, they put me in a ward room where there was 15, 20 Vietnam veterans in the beds. And within 2 minutes, they put me back on my gurney and shipped me into his private room. And an officer came in and says, your name is Smith. And if they ask you if you know anything about the Liberty, you tell them no, and that's an order. That was the only threat I got. But they did worry about me talking about it when I got to Germany, where they couldn't control the people coming into the area where we were.
Mm-hmm. And yet here you are, both of you, talking about it very openly and writing books about it and doing webinars. Is it a risk to speak out as you are?
Well, what happened is, from what I understand, is the commission officers were sworn to secrecy until the admiral that dealt with them died. And he died like 15 years later, 14 years later. And when he died, the officers started talking. That's when the first book by Jim Ernest came out, Assault on the Liberty. That's when that book came out. And then we all started talking about it because they could, we could. That's the way I believe it. You, Ernie?
I think the key was Jim Ernest's book. He got that published in 1979. And we all went our separate ways. And the next thing I knew, so there was something in print. One of the military magazines that there was going to be their first reunion, first 15th year reunion. And which told me that, hey, maybe we can start talking to each other. And we start comparing notes. And we couldn't believe some of the things that we discovered. I mean, since then, we have encountered so many facts, so much. There were so many lies told to us. And I have to tell you, I've been to over 45 countries in my lifetime. I love America. People don't realize the freedoms that we have. I'm telling you, there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. And this is an incident where it involved LBJ and his Secretary of Defense, McNamara. So in other words, we're talking about two individuals, right, who had lots of power. They could tell admirals to do whatever they needed to, they want it done, and it got done. So this is not some sort of conspiracy or whatever. The USS Liberty Veterans Association does not have any issues with Israel as far as the country is concerned. I hope God's good to them, and so on and so forth. They need to pay attention to what they're doing to the Palestinians. Other than that, Godspeed. With that, our focus right now on what's happened to us is our government. And believe me, there is a nest of issues that need to be resolved. So this does never happen again.
Thank you. We have a few more raised hands and just a few minutes left. So I'm going to go to Tatelman first, and then Larry will come to you. So Tatelman, you can now unmute.
You're not unmuted, Paul.
Hey, Bill, you can hear me?
Hey, Paul. I
You're
can
very
hear you.
quiet, but yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say, from what I've read, the Liberty books, the government books, news articles, regardless if the Liberty was where it was not supposed to have been, or whether it was a spy ship, the attack was not justified. They could have just jammed the signals. They could have shot across the bow. They could have contacted the politicians 2 days before, say, get them out of there, because we're going to attack the Golan Heights. We don't want that blown. That was the justification of their attack. The attack in itself was not justified. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks. Let's go to Larry.
Oh, okay. I was going to say go to Mike first.
Okay. Mike, you should now be able to unmute.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Larry. Just a quick question. Do you see parallels between the Liberty and then what happened only about 7 months later as regards the fate of the USS Pueblo? Thanks.
Oh, my God, yes. You're hitting a major nerve for me. I mean, the spooks on board are communication or cryptologic technicians. And I can remember we were on the quarterdeck of the USS Liberty sitting in Malta, and a group of us were talking and said, you know what? Other CT ships are now in jeopardy. So they better be careful, right? And that, I mean, now we're just regular sailors, right? Doesn't take much intelligence to figure out, hey, you're going to send another intelligence ship flying an American flag to North Korea, and they're not going to do anything about it? That was so dumb. Come on. Yes, I have major feelings towards those sailors that went with, I mean, they were incarcerated for what, a year? And then they're going to court-martial the captain? Give me a break. The captain was trying to save their lives for stupidity of our intelligence people that would send that ship. And like we were told, we would have air support if anything ever happened. Did they ever see the air support? There was nothing ever planned. There was nothing set up that something should happen to them. Oh, no, I appreciate the question. Oh,
My quick question is, if the Israelis had concerns about where you were or whatever, there could have been communication to say, get the hell out of there, rather than trying to sink the ship, an allied ship.
There's two authors, Philip Nelson and Joe Nunn. Both have been writing about LBJ for years, and they both, not knowing each other, did their own investigation and came to the same conclusion, that LBJ colluded with the Israelis to sink the Liberty. I'll say that again. The LBJ colluded with the Israeli, planned to have the ship sunk.
Don't forget, we didn't know who was attacking us when he told the admiral that we won't embarrass our allies. So to me, that meant the ship was there to be sunk. So
On that point, there was some confusion in the chat whether the Israeli planes were marked or unmarked. Can you clarify that?
I saw it. I saw one plane and it was unmarked. It was just a black fighter jet and it had no markings on it. I thought it was Egypt attacking us. I never suspected Israel to be the culprits.
How about earlier in the day? How about earlier in the day when they were?
The planes that surveyed us were all marked. We could see that they were Israeli. Star of David was on the on the tail and on the wings. I mean, there's no question that the observing planes were Israel.
I went topside to actually observe one of the low flying propeller-driven aircraft that came so close. You could see the pilot's face. We waved at him. He waved back. He rocked his wings. The visitation we had all morning long was friendly. And that's why I said the guys were sunbathing.
I think Mike Goodman had a question.
Oh, didn't Mike get to ask a question? Do you have another question? Let's see. Mike, did you have another question? You can now unmute.
Okay, no, you pretty well covered it about the Pueblo, but thanks for asking.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have another one from Larry Berman, though. So let's go to Larry Berman. You can now unmute, Larry.
Ernie and Mickey, I want to thank you very much for your conveying what really happened on board the USS Liberty, and I'm sure that was very frightening for all of you. One of the things that Ernie, I read it in your book, and I know you're very adamant about the fact that LBJ wanted the USS Liberty sunk. Now, was that after the fact that the Israelis attacked the ship, and then he said, I want the ship sunk so that nobody knows about it? I'm not quite sure I understand where you're coming from on this, Ernie.
Oh, I'm repeating what the two authors said. Okay, I do believe that they're onto something, but from the evidence that they provide in their books, all right, indicate that if the Liberty could have been sunk with all hands lost, everybody would have assumed that the Egyptians had done it. There was we didn't have the satellites, we didn't have any intelligence that we have today. So the ship could have been sunk, all hands lost, and Egypt would have been nuked. There were two two American aircraft with nuclear weapons headed for Cairo. They were recalled 6 minutes before their target. Am I getting that? That was the planning. There were two aircraft headed for Cairo. We hated Nasser. We wanted to take him out in the worst way. This was, this was the Cold War, and we needed to get that edge on the Russians, and we didn't want anybody joining up with the Russians. Lessons had to be taught. We needed to get that message out. So what I'm saying is, the fact that the Liberty didn't sink, that was a problem. All the rest of the other plans fell apart when that didn't happen. The two jets that were sent to Israel, to Cairo, I believe they landed in Crete, or Turkey. I'm sorry, Turkey.
I guess what you're trying to say, Ernie, is that LBJ was trying to cover up what happened to your ship.
Let me put it another way. Let me put it another way. The Tonkin Gulf resolution, remember that?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so Kennedy is assassinated. He takes over as vice president. Now he's going to run for president. So he feels he needs something, an edge. He's the big communist fighter. So we have this Tonkin Gulf thing, and he's able to take that to Congress, get all kinds of money, and sends in hundreds of thousands of troops to South Vietnam, right? And he got elected. Now, it was his ticket to success, the Tonkin. Now here we go again. He's coming up for another election. This is 67. He's running for 68.
Okay,
Right.
now wait a second. Are you saying that now he's got a war going in Vietnam that
Yes,
he's
he still
having
has it
trouble
going, yeah.
controlling, and then he wants to go and nuke Egypt? That sounds preposterous.
We know for a fact that two aircraft with nuclear weapons was on their way to Cairo. Messages were sent to the embassy in Cairo. Messages were sent to other embassies indicating that there was going to happen. And they were recalled 6 minutes before their target.
And who? What aircraft though were they? American aircraft?
Yeah, from the USS America. We have people on the America that's told us that they saw the two aircraft leave the America.
Well, I'm just wondering now if that was just commonplace standard procedure to carry a nuclear weapon along with conventional armament when flying around.
I don't know. All I have to, I direct you to the two books, Joan Mellon and Philip Nelson. Very interesting observations by them, and the details and the backstops and all their evidence is in the jackets of the book.
Great,
Okay.
thank you, Larry. And we are a little bit over time, so
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank
that's
you, Ernie.
okay. Thank you, Larry. We have one more raised hand, so let's go to that and then we will wrap up. Tatelman, you can now unmute.
Thank you. Just one sort of question statement. I find it difficult to believe that an admiral will have the authority to launch a nuclear attack. Secondly, considering the location of Cairo, or we know about nuclear fallout, that even a nuclear attack would have been planned. Mr. Gallo?
Well, I accept your caution. I don't know what else to say. But we know for a fact that the planes were sent. The Liberty story involves research. It involves getting into the heart of what happened to us. Now, if I can just quickly explain that when you say the admiral, right? Right now, if a chief executive gives an order to a flag officer, that flag officer has to say yes. It has, or the president can fire him right on the spot. It's either that or his career is over for not obeying his order. We have a thing called the UCMJ, United the Code of Military Justice, okay, which is the Bible for the military on how do you tell which is a good order and a bad order. So if the president tells Admiral McCain of London, Senator McCain's father, Admiral McCain of London, Admiral Martin of the Sixth Fleet, and Admiral Kidd, we're going to have a Navy Court of Inquiry, and I don't care what the crew of the USS Liberty tells you, you will come to the conclusion that the USS Liberty was accidentally attacked. Is that a good order? That happened. And that's what needs to be, we need to stop that. Flag officers need something to fall back on where they can say to a president, absolutely not. I'm not getting involved in anything like that. And that their careers are not, in other words, there's something that they can fall on easily. Now we know McCain, Admiral Kidd, and Admiral Martin, the three of them had to know, had to agree, had to go along with the order that this Navy Court of Inquiry was going to be falsified. What does that mean? In 2005, we sent a formal war crimes report to the Pentagon to be reviewed and acted on. And they refused to do so. Why? Because the Navy Court of Inquiry said the attack was accidental. There's lots of details within the Liberty attack that needs to be looked at, and people are not doing it because there is a group of Americans out there that don't want to know what happened in the Six-Day War with the USS Liberty, because it might involve Israel, and it might indicate that the people running Israel at that time, I'm not saying all Israelis, but the people running Israel at the time went along with those plans.
Great. Thank you, Ernie. Before we wrap up, any last words from either of you, Mikey or Ernie?
No, me, like I said, the USS Liberty was a unique looking ship. No, two ships in the world look like us, and there's no way in the world anybody would mistake the Liberty or the Belmont for any other ship than what we were. It was not an accident. And I think Johnson had a lot to do with it.
Well, I want to thank both of you for first for your service, and secondly for telling your story, because it's important. It's important that we, the American people, know, and the Israelis to know for themselves as well. And so for that, I thank you, and I encourage you to keep telling your story, because it needs to be told. and quite frankly, you know, hearing this makes me ashamed of my government at the time for how easily it was to just want to sacrifice those who were serving for the people of America. Okay, Liberty, can you put that in the chat, how to get it?
Yeah, just go to Sacrificing Liberty. It'll
Okay,
lead you right to the place.
Yeah, so we will send out a follow-up email to everyone who registered. We will include the recording of this event, and we can also include those resources, so the DVD and the book. So we'll make sure to put that in the follow-up email. And yeah, echoing what Larry said, thank you both so much for opening up and sharing your personal stories about just what a horrific, traumatic day. So we really appreciate you both sharing that with us today, and thank you for everyone for attending.
Thank you.
God
thank
bless.
you.
Thanks.
Larry-
Bye-bye.
Larry, we'll see you this summer.
Yes, he's coming up to me.
Paul, we'll hopefully see you this summer too.
Oh, where's Tallman from?
Moulin? Tom Moulin?
No,
Andover.
Tatelman.
Auburn.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, Tom's from Auburn.
okay. Thank you, and thank you,
All right.
Greta. So much
Thank
appreciated.
you, Brad.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.